All right, we're back to another day of filming. Yuanji's back from Amsterdam.
Yeah, and I know you couldn't make it out there.
Yep.
You had some business to take care of, so I have taken the liberty of delivering some goodies.
Some goodies, yes.
From the event. So first,
FaBled playmat, Blood of Drakai.
yeah,
Heck yeah.
They give these out to all the Pro Tour participants.
Tour participants.
Also,
that is cool. Steve Argyle art.
Also, one of these. I don't know if you could get these. Could you get these in Tokyo?
No, it was the other Enigma. It was the Japanese alternate art waifu Enigma. This is the New Moon Enigma, so that's really cool. There's the camera right there. Yeah.
And then, I know you said that it would make you feel a little fraudulent, but I did get one of every Pro Tour Amsterdam t-shirt.
Because I have every other Pro Tour, Pro Tour swag, but I didn't show up. But you know what? I'm still happy to have these t-shirts.
Does that one have the canals in the back, or?
It's got the buildings.
Oh, the building? Oh, yeah. This is like a view from the canal. We did like a canal tour.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got to see like all the leaning buildings.
Yeah.
What is this one? I think it's the same.
It's got a dude with ears, and I don't get that. Why is there like a rodent-looking creature?
Maybe that's the national like symbol of Amsterdam.
It is?
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
So
Okay.
if or of the Netherlands maybe.
Netherlands,
If there's
okay.
any Dutch viewers, maybe you could let us know why there's a little rodent.
Yeah, there's a rodent type of creature with a sword and a shield, and that's just really, really awesome. That's the Amsterdam Pro Tour features. Oh, and Yuanji was gonna literally throw this away. Do you mind?
Oh yeah.
He was like, "Oh, it's just chaff," and I'm like, "What are you talking about, bro? Like, a lot of people will never see LSS stamped cards. Like, these are actually collectible LSS stamped cards from the Pro Tour, right? Like, somebody like me, I've only made one day two in my life in Queenstown.
Well, I didn't win, so it mean nothing to me.
Well, even if you didn't win, these are collectible because they're stamped LSS. These are like keepsake items. I'm not saying that there's a secondary market for them. There might be, I don't know. But I wouldn't just throw them in the garbage, right? So,
Fair enough.
yeah, I'm going to be a little pack rat. Oh, look, a foil untamed. See, it's foil, rainbow foil. I'm going to be a little pack rat, and I'm going to save these because I saved them from the garbage can. So,
Okay.
yeah, really awesome. Thanks for the gimmies, Yuanji.
You're welcome.
All right. Welcome to FaBled Hunters.
I'm Yuanji.
I'm Saint.
And today we're back at it. We're talking about some stuff.
I guess so. Collector's Week just wrapped, and there was the final super secret post of Collector's Week, and it's been going on all week, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
So, Yuanji, do you think it's safe to say that there are two major updates for the collector base of Flesh and Blood that have transpired and been announced this week?
Yeah, and so the two things I'm guessing you're talking about are the update to the reprint policy.
Okay,
That's one. And then the other one would be the release of kind of the print runs from last year.
Of 2.0. Yeah. I think everything was released up until
I think Bright
Dusk
Lights
Till
was-
Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn.
Bright Lights was not released.
Yeah.
So everything from sets 7 through 10, as well as the Unlimiteds from the last of the first sets, right? The Monarch Unlimited, the Toa Unlimited. So where do you want to dig into first?
So let's first talk about the reprints.
The reprints? The print runs?
Sorry, the print runs, my fault.
Okay.
The print run numbers. I think the numbers for Dynasty and Outsiders in particular was what I was looking at.
Okay.
And they were falling around the 175,000.
Yep, I think it was something like 175, 170, 165, something like that.
Something like that. And I was honestly kind of surprised. You know, we kind of went on a tangent when we were talking about UPP.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I said that I thought that Legend Story Studios should be doing is kind of pulling back their print runs.
But as indicated, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I have my thoughts on kind of what that means, but kind of wanted to get your opinion first.
I would say that Uprising being in the 200,000, like slightly over 200,000, I believe the number was around 220, but we can pull everything up, right?
Yeah.
It was over 200. Everything else after set 7 was under 200,000, which I would say is actually good for the game, which I would also say is good for collectors, because the lower amount of supply, as long as demand grows, and I am a big proponent that LSS is doing the right things to grow their player base and grow the global demand of the game, then that that bodes well for the game itself. I have heard dissenting opinions, though, because there's always dissenting opinions that I think the argument goes around that, oh, look, the printings are decreasing in number and the game's shrinking. And I don't think that the game's shrinking. I think that what people are saying around the Monarch, Toa, and Everfest era is, now noticeably correct. Whereas they had overprinted a couple of sets, and they might have even overprinted, for the time, the WAC Unlimited printings of the game. And now they're just right-sizing it, right?
Yeah, I don't know what to say for the people who are commenting on whether or not the game is shrinking. After all, LSS has access to numbers that point in directions, and so far we haven't gotten any sort of idea around this. And what I will say is that I feel like we, for the past year or two, haven't been in a period of expansion to the same level, I think, that we experienced Everfest and before. I think Everfest was kind of the last period of time that I can recall that there was a significant increase in player base. Now, obviously, LSS is doing a lot of things in recent years to unlock new regions. So, opening up Japan, obviously that's going to be an increase in the player base.
Of course, that's the second largest TCG market in the world.
Yeah,
and
so
that's objective.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have some mixed feelings about the numbers. I am really happy that they are pulling back and that they have been. This is part of their overall business strategy. I feel a little bit mixed about it, however, because even after they're pulling it back, I feel like there's still some issues with the fact that like these products still aren't, selling at the rate that I guess I would like them to be.
Okay.
And I think that we can attribute it to like several things. Maybe it has to do with their distribution strategy. Maybe it has to do with like the rate, like. For example, I know some other games, they do like a wave 1 and then like a very like delayed wave 2.
Yeah.
I think for Flesh+blood it's more seamless.
Okay.
So I'm not too sure about that. I can say, however, that I do feel good that this is something that they're looking at. And as far as concerns about the game not really growing, I think that they've done a lot in the last year to try to kind of account for that and to try to make a more core part of their business strategy.
Well, I mean, there's a big gap between the middle 3 sets, right? Sets 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
And the current sets. And LSS was in the uncomfortable position of needing to adjust from, let's say, 300,000-400,000 boxes per set down to sub 200,000 boxes per set.
Yeah, and for a company that's like having your total revenue, if their revenue is mostly driven by box sales, right?
Yeah, for sure. It does sound like they had to have their revenue, yet James did go on that interview, and I guess because of there being 4 sets instead of 3, I do believe that their revenue had still found a way to go up in 2023, because there were 4 sets released, there were ancillary products, there was Around the Table, right?
Yeah.
And that is what helped offset that revenue.
Sure.
Right? And again, there just simply wasn't that true demand between the years of 2021 and 2022. And I think we were dealing with what happens in the global TCG market when demand subsides, which, demand was red hot in Monarch because everybody was trying to jump on that, Monarch to 1K, Flesh and Blood to the moon.
A lot of not like Flesh and Blood players or collectors are hopping into Flesh and Blood.
Exactly. And now we've got actual Flesh and Blood players, and less so, still collectors jumping in. And that's what Collectors Week is here to celebrate. Now, I do see the argument. I see like, oh, look, the numbers are going down. But this is not the first time in which print runs are going down in a TCG. And I would argue that successful TCGs, such as Magic the Gathering, they've lowered their print runs significantly.
Oh, yeah.
They've put serialized cards in boxes. And even for MTG, this isn't the first time that print runs have decreased. I remember hearing that the sets like the original Kamigawa and Saviors and Revenge of Kamigawa, or whatever that Kamigawa block was.
Champions.
Yeah, Champions of Kamigawa, Dark Steel, a lot of those sets were very low printed.
Yeah.
And it was not until like I think Rudy calls it the Bronze era.
I think
of Magic the Gathering.
Ravnica is when they started.
It went back up again. Ravnica 2, and then it experienced a lull, and there were some crap sets like I think Aether Revolt, Amonkhet, whatever. Then the Ixalan, and then Guilds of Ravnica again into Allegiance and War of the Spark.
Yeah.
Then the print runs went up again, and then we came into the current Magic the Gathering collector box era, which is another story, another wave, another era in and of itself.
Yeah, I think I personally don't view like high print run equals good or low print run equals bad.
Okay.
Even as like an assessment of kind of the state of the game. I think that players coming out of the game on a periodic basis, I think James himself had said that he thought that was a pretty normal occurrence. Sometimes the decks that you play are really fun and powerful and people get back into it, and sometimes there's a period of time when the game's not appealing to you and you step out. And I think that it seems even from the leadership down that their approach is that is a normal thing. I think from my perspective it's more important that LSS is at least more accurately predicting what the demand is going to be and adjusting their supply to meet that demand. Because I feel like it doesn't really matter if one set is high or another set is low. I think the biggest issue is if you mismatch, particularly in the direction if you print too much and then stores have to kind of hold the bag, so to speak. I think that is very damaging for the game as a whole, because ultimately, even though the players are very important for the ecosystem, the stores still have to buy into the product to make the game available for the players.
Okay. So you're saying that the print runs are actually protecting the stores?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's like a push-pull, right? When your game is really hot, then you want to print more boxes to make them available for stores to sell and make money. When the game cools down, like as I think they rightly predicted for like Outsiders, probably for Bright Lights when those numbers will get released as well. It's not obvious, but it's natural to assume that there's going to be fewer people who want it, and so you really do want to lower the print run, I think, in these instances, to make it so that let's say like 60%, 70% of the player base is like really interested in this product, then the store doesn't have to get left holding the extra 30% and trying to fire sale it.
Okay, that makes sense. And I would say that it was probably a smart move on their part that they didn't release the print runs for Bud Light, and they saved it for next time.
Yeah.
Because they ended it, they capped it at set 10, and now we have more or less perfect info about sets 1 through 10, as well as even History Pack 1.
Yeah.
History Pack 1 is really, really low printed. I think it was under 50,000 boxes all in globally.
Yeah.
And, Bright Lights was probably a black eye to LSS, and I set 11. That's awkward. Let's move it along to next year's Collectors Week and next year's print run releases.
Yeah.
But I would also say that I wouldn't be surprised if we are back in the 200,000 plus numbers with heavy hitters as well as part of the misfail.
Yeah.
Which will mean that, because we both as individuals that play and collect the game, we've seen the surge in interest and the renewed support for the game in these past 2 sets.
Yeah.
Right? And then you've got Rosetta and whatever comes out, sets 14 and on. And I think we're back on the right track. Because let's just say that ever since Uprising, which was right around the numbers of Everfest, Uprising 2.0, there was a renewed spike with Marvels and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then interest kind of trickled down, consumption kind of trickled down. But then there was also, I'm not going to call it a glut, but there was more supply of product because I believe after Uprising, they started releasing, was it 3 or 4 sets a year? I think they went up to 4 sets a year. Right?
I mean, they're still on 3 draftable sets a year right now. I think it's just 3 draftable sets plus they do like a supplementary product.
Okay.
So first time it was round the table. This time I'm not sure what it will be. I don't know if they're releasing like armory decks.
Okay.
Armory decks, first strike, stuff like that.
Okay. No, in the very beginning, 2021, for example, there were only 2 sets, right? Because 2020 was when that big COVID spike hit, and we had, okay.
Was Crucible War?
Crucible was in summer of 2020, or winter of 2020. Arcane was in spring of 2020. Arcane was March of 2020.
Yeah.
Crucible was like September of 2020.
Yeah.
Right? And then Monarch was like April of 2021.
Yep.
Right? And then before that, 2019, the only set to come out was Welcome to Wraith, right? So it was 1 in 2019, 2 sets in 2020, 2 sets in 2021, and then 2022, I think we had 3 sets because it was Everfest in the spring, Castarvo and Pro Tour 1, right? Then we had, what was it called? Uprising, and then Dynasty at the end of the year. And then since then, we've jumped to 3 full sets per year. So, all right, so that's the print runs. Do you have anything else to add about the print runs? Because the numbers are the numbers, and it's pretty objective.
I think it's up to the individual to decide what you're taking away from this. Overall, I think it's a good thing that LSS is committed to releasing these numbers
and transparency.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now let's talk about, I think, what might be maybe a little bit more subjective or controversial topic. The reprints policy has been updated. So I believe that the main update was that in addition, so the original reprint policy was called the cold foil reprint policy.
The cold foil policy, kind of like a reserved list in Flesh and Blood.
So they said that if they ever printed a card in cold foil in like a main set, that they would not reprint it in cold foil again. Now I think they have kind of updated it so that they also include rainbow foils, and then they're changing the page to just like the reprint policy in general, which I assume means that it could be subject to change in the future.
Yep.
I have my take on this. We talked a little bit about this offline. What do you think about them kind of making this change official?
I think that it's always been a big duh, because when you look at sets as early as, I started noticing it in Uprising, where a card, for example, like Scar for a Scar was in the set, and I believe there was a couple other cards that were reprinted for Uprising, and I
think Scar for Scar was the only one.
It was the only one?
Yeah.
It might have been like a Nimbleism or a something generic, a BS generic card here and there. That's what I think. But for sure, we are both positive that in Uprising, Scar for Scar did not have a rainbow foil reprint, right? And we're like, why is that? Why is that the only card without a rainbow foil reprint?
Yeah.
And from that moment on, I believe that everything from 1.0 that was in rainbow foil would not be reprinted, and they followed it and they continued on with that path. Yeah. And they signaled it to the community. So, again, I think it was, as somebody paying attention, it was a big duh. Like we all knew that this was the intent of LSS, and they were protecting the collectors, but for the sake of every collector, even the ones that, buy a box and say, hey, let me sit on this box or buy a box, open it,
Yeah.
and hold on to the cards and keep them in a binder. It's good that they have the full clarity and they have full information that this is exactly what LSS intends to do.
Yeah.
I believe that it was fully telestrated, that you could have seen this coming from, a dozen miles away.
Sure.
But I think for the sake of the people, again, not paying as close attention, this is just comforting to them, because LSS always signals their intentions first, and LSS is always pretty straightforward about everything they do. They're not hiding anything.
Yeah.
I totally do not believe that conspiracy or that allegation that LSS is taking a stance against their collectors and they're trying to drive prices down and overprint everything to the ground. Obviously, that didn't happen. You saw that with the print runs, right? The
Yeah,
print
it's all a conspiracy to devalue your collection.
Yes, devalue the collections. That would be the right thing to do, or the intent of a publisher trying to spread, joy and love and passion about their items, their workmanship.
Yeah, I think I overall enjoy not enjoy it, that's the wrong word. I appreciate the spirit of the updates of the reprint policy.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand the sentiment of wanting to. It's kind of like a loyalty bonus, right? You're getting a bonus for the people who have kind of stuck it out with you throughout the history of Flesh and Blood and have been collecting, these rainbow foils as the sets come out. One thing that I dislike about it is that I think that the policy seems a little bit restrictive moving forward. And what I mean by that is that I think that if we just think about how Flesh and Blood is played and collected today, it's not like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
All the cards, for the most part, even the rainbow foil versions are relatively easy to acquire.
Still are.
Yeah.
We just talked about the print runs, and there's kind of correlated, right? If you want the original printing, or at least the unlimited printing of the first 3 sets, you can still get those boxes for under $100, maybe $110 in the case of Arcane Rising, and they're still plentiful. They're still readily available, even more available than sets 8, 9, or 10.
Yeah, and so to me, the main issue that I see is more so like a future looking one, where let's say like down the line, 5 years down the line, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be, when you get into this, I think you get into this state for card design. I think right now, Flesh and Blood, we're still exploring new talents. We haven't hit all the regions of Wraith. They might have some classes like hidden up their sleeves, but I think at some point in time the game will have matured and kind of like the boundaries of the game essentially will have been defined.
Okay.
It's like these are the classes, these are the talents, these are the regions, right? Mm-hmm. I think when that time comes, then like the power of reprints is like reprints have like a really powerful effect, I think, in card games where not only is it useful for card availability, but I think it's also like a good tool for set design, because sometimes you just like got it right, maybe a decade in the past.
Sure.
You printed, what is it? A wounding blow, zero resource, 4 damage, like they talked about when they were doing MXT.
Yeah,
that was just the perfect card, for that.
That was
time.
a balanced card, I think they called it, something like
that. Yeah, but it was just like for that time, like the perfect card. And so I don't think we're at the point in Flesh and Blood yet where like Majestics or Legendaries are really like subject to this, because we're still exploring, different things. But I can see in the future that to be the case. Like we see in Magic, for example, sometimes. They do like a key reprint of some rare from decades ago, and then that just happens to be like the card, like a good card for the set.
Okay. And
I think it's important to kind of leave that avenue open. And now you might be like, well, they can still do that. They just don't have to print in rainbow foil.
They can print in non-foil.
Yeah, but my kind of rebuttal to that is that I really don't think that it's beneficial for the overall growth of your game to take a stance that says that you get like penalized in some way for not hopping onto the game. I think that if there's a really cool card in the new set, then they're kind of leaving, not like money, but they're leaving like value on the table by not giving people an opportunity to, you know, kind of hit that joy of opening. Like right now, like you open a foil Levels of Enlightenment, that's like a really cool feeling, you know. That card is really strong. You open it and it's really great. If they reprint Command and Conquer in, you know, like 3 or 4 years, right?
But they just did reprint Command and Conquer, just
yeah, but
as part of
as a
collector's
pro. But
mark.
I'm just saying, like, they should need to print it in like a regular set at some point in like a couple of years from now.
But okay, we were talking about this too. They just reprinted Mask of Momentum only in Japanese, non-foil, and you're like, oh, but it's so important. There's a ninja in this set. Let's have Mask. Except how many Zens actually use Mask? Why? Because they printed a new headpiece that works even better for Zen, Traverse the Universe.
Right.
And that's in rainbow foil, as well as extended art cold foil.
But
that supersedes the use of the non-foil mask. So
Yeah,
while
but-
Mask is cool, and all ninjas are able to use Mask and use that as a choice, you know, that's not the be-all and end-all. Traverse the Universe is the actual dominant headpiece. And in the future, well, if you like the Mask of Momentum for your ninja, 5 sets down the line, you can still use the Japanese non-foil mask for the Japanese audience. And if they're really compelled or really drawn to Mask of Momentum, they still have the unlimited rainbow foil. There's hundreds of cold foils.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not going to say that the, you know, gold foil is accessible, right?
Yeah.
There's one person, you know, in our community that
Right.
went through months to just get one, and he finally got his. But you've got 3 printings, right? You've got three printings of Mask of Momentum that you can go pursue, and there's thousands upon thousands of copies of Mask of Momentum, as well as, you know, in rainbow foil and cold foil, as well as now you've got, you know, non-foil, or you've got, I think, even history pack versions, history pack 1, you know, non-black bordered, you know, white bordered versions of Mask of Momentum. Right,
but it's not. I'm not talking about card availability. I'm saying like the issue isn't whether or not they can reprint the card to make it available for people. I'm just saying you're just denying people the opening experience of being able to open like a really like cool variant of a card. And I think that the real issue is like even in the example that you gave, okay, like Zens all play Traverse the Universe. But Traverse the Universe was a design mistake, as stated by Brian Gottlieb. He said that they shouldn't have given it 2 block. It's just like you can't like keep pushing the envelope all the time on printing like more and more and more and more powerful cards to kind of replace. And I think that also sets a bad precedence. I think that good card design sometimes it's evergreen. Like for example, in Magic, Birds of Paradise. That card is going to stand the test of time. It's a 1 mana like creature. It makes mana of any color. It will always be, you know, if that's like the type of effect you want. Lana Royale, for example, they just put it in the whatever they call it now, like the standard non-rotating.
The new standard set, the new core set. After they like eliminated that term and brought it back.
But you see what I'm saying? Like I think that, for example, a card like Command and Conquer, a card like Snatch. I think these cards are kind of like the cornerstones of their design, where, you know, that's kind of the gold standard for like one of the cards, and then they can like riff on it. And sometimes they push the envelope in some ways, but I don't think that it's healthy to always expect them to keep doing that. So I think that having access to a card, let's say like if they print like another set, an example that I gave you was Brave Forge Bracers. Let's say they printed like another set where Warrior is one of the primary classes in the set. Maybe they decided that, you know, for the legendary, for the class legendary for the set, it should just be Brave Forge Bracers because it fits perfectly with the type of playstyle. Maybe they just want to hit like twice with weapons, right?
Well, maybe they printed in non-foil and there's another legendary and another piece of the body, or maybe it's a
no, but that's
legendary weapon.
That's what I'm saying. You're putting the onus on the design team to continually come up with like newer designs. But I think that reprints are really important. And so this is we got a long way, but I think that my main thing that I would have liked them to put in the reprint policy, and I said at the beginning that I appreciated the sentiment of it. I would have rather that they have kind of tied it to the art of the card. So even I think for cold foils as well, when they print a card in cold foil, rainbow foil, whatever, with a specific art, that art is like that card with that art is just like the end of like what it is. You know, it makes it a lot easier for collectors. You don't have to like look at the set codes or whatever. Like, you know, you see this art, it's in this type of like treatment.
I'm not sure if that's coming from a player perspective, but I just have to say, like, Yuanji, you cannot deny that from a collector perspective, this draws a line in the sand and it provides value and comfort for collectors.
I absolutely can deny that.
Why?
Because we have seen historical evidence where that's not the case. Like, for example, in Yu-Gi-Oh, they reprint cards with like higher and higher rarities all the time, and it doesn't matter because the original printing always has like the highest value. And the original printing is only identifiable in some cases in Yu-Gi-Oh!
But now,
by the set code, and it just says first edition in small text, and that's the only thing that it has to differentiate itself. And it doesn't matter if they print like...
Well, I would say that the original printing of Command & Conquer for some time, the Dynasty version, the cold foil version of Command & Conquer, was giving even the original rainbow foil edition a run for its money, which is a little weird, and it brings out like some bad feels. Or
why is that weird? And like, why is it feels bad? I don't understand.
I would collect the 400 original versions of Command & Conquer all the live long day, but I'm just saying it created confusion for some time. Just like the Judge foils, the Judge cold foils of Art of War created confusion to the original collectors for some time. Now you're protecting the cold foils and the rainbow foils, and that's bringing a layer of comfort and protection to anybody that buys into all of the products in the past for Flesh and Blood. You're welcome to deny it, but I'm just saying that as a collector and understanding that collector mindset, that is like an insurance policy that moving forward, LSS will not do anything to overtly disrupt the preserved value of not just the cold foils, but the rainbow foils.
Yeah, I mean, but you've even gone on record like railing at people who are of the opinion that LSS has an obligation to protect the value of their cards.
I'm not saying they do. I'm saying it's a nice to have, though.
Right, but so like no, but that's where I have an issue with it, because I think that, you know, as with all things like collecting value, whatever it is, it's all at most levels organic.
Yeah.
People like what they like, and they collect what they want to collect. And if more people want to collect the type of card, if it's more or less scarce, if it's easier or more difficult to acquire, these are all the factors that kind of influence the value of a card. And so I gave the example. I think there's a lot of history in TCGs that point to the evidence that it doesn't really matter like what you do to like protect or not protect or like whatever. People are going to gravitate towards whatever it is that they like. And I think in most instances, it'll be the original printing in the highest rarity form.
Most instances,
and in some instances when, you know, the superseding factors become more about aesthetic appeal, it becomes more about, because they're going to put these in their decks, they're not going to put them in their binder, like whatever the case may be, you know, then you have instances where like the more blinged out version, like we've seen this with in Magic, like Judge foil Gaia's Cradle.
Yep, sure.
You know,
that came after the original Gaia's Cradle.
Yeah, and it's worth more. And so I think that there's always different factors involved. I just think that I think it's going to be more damaging in the future if LSS kind of takes a step back. I think it's going to be more damaging towards collector confidence if later on they're like, oh yeah, like we do want to like reprint, you know.
But they don't have to. You're saying LSS is pigeonholing themselves.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's always the simple path of least resistance, which is printed in non-foil. I mean, like they did with the Tunic. I know it's not the best example, but they did it with the Tunic. They did it with the Tekla Foundry Heart.
Yeah.
They did it with the Mask of Momentum.
Sure.
Right? And also, again, we started off this segment saying that we both recognize since 2022 that they've been moving towards this direction, not printing little things like Scar for a Scar in Rainbow Foil already.
Yeah.
And just like they didn't print, for example, I think it was like Nimbleism and Nimble Strike, right? In Part the Mistveil, right? They didn't reprint that in Rainbow Foil either.
Right.
And I would say that's a good move. Now they're just formally announcing it, right? For the past 2 years, you, me, and everybody else, other than being like, hey, this doesn't come in Rainbow Full, that's odd. Like, nobody was any of the wiser.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So they're not really hurting themselves. They've been doing this for 2 years. Now they're just like, okay, guys, in case, for those of you, the 93% that haven't really been paying attention, we're just gonna spell it out for you.
Yeah.
This is our intention, and we've already been doing it, whether you've realized it or not.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I guess, one of the things that I think is really advantageous for the game company is, I think, flexibility. I think the ability to do what you need to do in the best interest of your game is really important. And I view kind of like updating this policy in this way to be overly costly on limiting their future options without, in my opinion, much benefit. But, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
That, like...
They always have the route of promos as well, right? They could reprint Forge bracers for
but I think
a store promo.
Yeah, but I think that also sets like a kind of tough precedent. There are some things where it's in TCGs, it's just right to have a really cool card be open in a box.
Okay.
And that I think that's all that I have to say.
Okay, and to counter that, I will say there are probably 50,000 Welcome to Wraith Unlimited boxes sitting around worldwide, and you can still enjoy opening Brave Forge bracers or Hard to Find doll or Rainbow Full tunic.
I'm not making an argument based off of availability. I don't think that is the biggest issue for me. I'm just thinking about...
You're talking about the future.
Yeah, down the line in terms of what the business can do, the directions that it can go.
Call me overly optimistic, but I think that the world building available to LSS is immense, meaning we've explored probably less than 10% of the world. And if they want to call, a new continent, if they want to create a new continent outside of that continent of Wraith, that's available to them.
Sure.
As long as they're building a compelling story. And I also believe that they've exhausted less than 10% of their runway. And based on the past 5 years that we've seen, because we're coming up on 5 full years of Flesh and Blood, existing in the world. They can easily, paint themselves a larger world and create a larger card pool, 10x the size of the existing card pool, as long as they're doing it tactfully and, in a balanced manner. So, I get your point. We don't have to agree with one another.
Yeah.
That's just, our takes on the 2 updates of Collectors Week. Those are the 2 main updates. So, anything else in closing?
Yeah, just let us know what you guys think of the Collector Week updates. Leave a comment. If you want to support us, then join our Patreon at FaBled Hunters, and at there, if we'll probably do a follow up on some of the Collector Week specifics.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we have more to talk about in Collectors Week because we didn't talk about all of it. But that's it for today. So join us on our next episode. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, twiddle that notification button, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. What is this? Well, going through my home, I see a old random box of Romeo y Julietas. Man, I don't have a humidor or anything, but let's see if this stuff's still good. March 2009. Holy fuck, this is old. All right. Let's hope it's not. Wait. Habanos. Oh my god, they still smell fresh. Beautiful. It's a Christmas morning miracle.